When it comes to the films selected as the Best Picture of the Year by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, there are a number of them which are widely accepted as deserving choices. Casablanca, The Godfather, It Happened One Night, On the Waterfront, The Apartment, Schindler's List, Amadeus, The Return of the King. However, most movies that end up winning the prize are given the stigma of having robbed the Oscar from a better choice. Many of them are looked upon derisively, sometimes even before winning. That happened with last year's Best Picture winner, Green Book. From the second that envelope was opened, a lot of people wondered, why? I believe every Oscar makes sense within historical context, so I'm going to explore what led to this somewhat controversial win. But first, let's look at the movie itself. Green Book was inspired by co-writer Nick Vallelonga's father, Tony Vallelonga, and his employment under classical pianist Don Shirley. Vallelonga was tasked with driving Shirley through the Deep South on a concert tour, and through the course of their journey he discovers the racism of the time, and they both form a friendship. The film was directed by Peter Farrelly, who, prior to Green Book, had primarily directed scatological comedies, and this marked quite a departure for him. The movie got decent reviews from critics with praise for the lead performances from Viggo Mortensen and Mahershala Ali and their chemistry, but also criticism for the film's handling of racial issues. And yes, it is a rather simple handling on the subject matter, essentially choosing to portray it in a way that's easily digestible to a wide audience. I admit I did like Green Book, but mostly as a road trip comedy, albeit with the theme of Tony learning about his own white privilege as he sees firsthand what Don Shirley and other black people have to deal with. I think the best scenes in the film come from their moments together in the car as they learn more about each other and we see their contrasting personalities. It's not a groundbreaking film or an exceptional piece of filmmaking, but I thought Green Book was fine. So what led to the movie taking home the Best Picture Oscar? Green Book premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival to instant audience adoration. The movie won the People's Choice Award, voted on by the public who attend the festival. Previous winners of this award include The Big Chill, The Fisher King, Shine, Life is Beautiful, American Beauty, Slumdog Millionaire, The King's Speech, and La La Land. So it's considered a decent predictor for what might do well at the Oscars and other awards, as well as an early indicator of a movie that might have universal crowd-pleasing appeal. This prize gave Universal Pictures the confidence that the movie could be a major awards player for them. When Green Book had its initial limited release and then its wide expansion a week later, the numbers were considered okay, but nothing special. However, thanks to word of mouth and awards buzz, the movie kept chugging along. Although it never made more than $6 million on any given weekend, Green Book got to $85 million domestic. The movie even impressed overseas, especially in China, where it was marketed primarily as a story about friendship. So clearly the general movie-going audience really liked Green Book. So why was it controversial? Well, I already mentioned how the film's handling of racial issues rubbed some the wrong way, for admittedly valid reasons. Something also rather troublesome occurred when it was revealed Don Shirley's family was not even contacted prior to the film's production. While Nick Vallelonga obviously wanted the film's story told from the point of view of his father, him and Farrelly should have nonetheless done the courtesy of contacting Shirley's family. And of course, this being a multiple Oscar nominee and potential Best Picture winner, there were plenty of think pieces being published, as is the norm when the Academy anoints a film as one of the best of the year. Many of these had valid criticisms and explained quite nicely what the film's flaws were and where the movie fell short. But I also saw people getting huffy for silly reasons. For example, I remember Steven Spielberg getting flack for supporting Green Book and wanting Academy members to vote for it. This is silly because 1. Spielberg is allowed to like and support whatever movie he wants, and 2. Spielberg's company, DreamWorks Pictures, was one of the producers on the film. Why wouldn't he be rooting for it to win the Oscar? I also saw fans in the movie accused of being racist, which makes no sense to me. Green Book is about a white man who becomes friends with a black man. I don't think that's the kind of movie that would appeal to racists. Now let's go back to the original question. Why did Green Book win Best Picture? As we can see, despite the criticisms lobbied at it, it nonetheless found wide appeal among audiences. That also translates to many members of the Academy, though not all branches. Green Book was nominated for Best Picture, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Original Screenplay, and Best Film Editing, all very important categories. However, the director's branch preferred 5 other directorial efforts over Peter Farrelly's work on Green Book. The lack of a directing nomination led many to spell doom for the film. Only 4 previous films had won Best Picture without a directing nomination. The most recent was Argo, and before that was Driving Miss Daisy. So how did Green Book overcome that hurdle? Well, it comes down to the preferential ballot. Since the Academy expanded the Best Picture category in 2009, they changed the voting system for Best Picture, so members are required to rank their picks. They don't even need to include all the nominees. They can include only 5 or 4 if they feel so inclined. This system means a Best Picture nominee does not just need to collect as many number 1 votes as possible. It also helps them if voters place a film number 2 or number 3 or number 4 on their ballot. Alfonso Cuarón's Roma was widely considered to be the likely runner-up. It was widely acclaimed, and Cuarón was the frontrunner for Best Director, which he ended up winning. It also had a lot of passionate supporters who wanted to see international cinema recognized in a category that is only given the win to English-language films. Roma probably got a lot of number 1 votes, but it's also a movie that's a bit more leisurely paced, and so a number of voters may have found it to be too slow. Green Book, meanwhile, was more mainstream and more digestible. There's also an interesting divide right now between the newer, younger members of the Academy and older voters who make up a good portion of the membership. There have also been attempts to make the membership more diverse and international. This has led to winners that appeal to a younger, more worldwide crowd, like Moonlight, The Shape of Water, and Birdman. But sometimes the older voters prevail, and a more traditional winner takes the prize, like Spotlight, Argo, and The King's Speech. That's not to say you can divide voters into these black and white categories. For example, if I was an Academy voter, Argo would have topped my Best Picture ballot in 2012. Dunkirk and Bridge of Spies were also my number 1 picks among the Best Picture nominees in their respective years, winners that would have been seen as traditional and appealing to an older demographic. And yet, I'm in that age bracket many would assume gravitates towards the artier and more risk-taking fare. In fact, Roma was my number 1 choice among last year's Best Picture nominees, and Green Book would not even be in my top 5. Because guess what? These voters are individuals with their own unique tastes. At the end of the day, I think Green Book won because it was a crowd pleaser that appealed to a wide number of people, was helped by a preferential ballot, and was also about a subject matter that's seen as important and timely. Yes, it was considered Driving Miss Daisy in reverse, but that film also won Best Picture in a year where a lot of folks felt a Spike Lee film was more deserving. That must have been a strange case of déjà vu for him. I'll conclude by offering this suggestion to you. If you don't like a film winning Best Picture, or any other category for that matter, just create your own Oscar headcanon and alternate history. Do you know how many times I've given the Oscar to Martin Scorsese? A lot more than the real Academy Awards, I'll tell you that much. It's an organization with over 8,000 members, and you're never going to 100% agree with their picks. See you next time.